A millionaire found a baby in a basket in front of his mansion. Years later, a woman rang his doorbell and he was shocked to discover that Ethan Blackwood stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Brookline mansion, watching raindrops race down the glass. At 45, he cut an impressive figure, tall, with salt and pepper hair that lent him an air of distinction. His reflection stared back at him, a man at the pinnacle of success, yet undeniably alone. 20 years earlier, Ethan had been a different man. Fresh out of MIT with a computer science degree and a head full of dreams, he'd thrown himself into the tech startup world. Those early days were a blur of sleepless nights, cold pizza, and code that never seemed to end. He and his college roommate, Mike, had poured their hearts and souls into their fledgling company, Nexus Technologies. Their big break came with a revolutionary algorithm for data compression. Suddenly, Nexus was the talk of Silicon Valley. Investors clamored for meetings, tech giants offered buyouts, and Ethan found himself thrust into a world of boardrooms and million-dollar deals. Success, however, came at a price. As Nexus grew, so did the distance between Ethan and Mike. Where once they had been like brothers, now they were barely speaking. The final blow came when Mike accused Ethan of selling out, of sacrificing their original vision for profit. The argument ended with Mike walking out, selling his shares, and cutting all ties. Ethan sighed, turning away from the window. The memory of that loss still stung even after all these years. He picked up a framed photo from his desk. Him and Mike, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning widely at their first tech convention. He set it face down with a soft thud. As Nexus Technologies grew into a tech empire, Ethan's personal life shrank. Relationships came and went, never lasting long enough to pierce the armor he'd built around himself. His parents, proud of his success but worried about his isolation, passed away within a year of each other, leaving Ethan truly alone. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed midnight, its somber tones echoing through the empty corridors. Ethan made his way to the bar cart, pouring himself a generous measure of whiskey. He swirled the amber liquid, watching the light from his desk lamp dance through it. At 45, Ethan Blackwood was a name that commanded respect in the tech world. His innovations had revolutionized data management, his wealth was beyond measure, and his influence stretched across continents. Yet as he stood in his cavernous mansion, he couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental was missing. He was about to take a sip when a sound cut through the steady drumming of the rain. A cry, high-pitched and unmistakable. Ethan froze, the crystal tumbler halfway to his lips. There it was again, louder this time. Frowning, he made his way to the front door, his footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. The crying continued, more insistent now. With a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, Ethan opened the heavy oak door. There, on his doorstep, sheltered from the rain by the portico, sat a wicker basket. And inside, wrapped in a pale blue blanket, was a baby. "What the hell?" Ethan muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. The infant, disturbed by the sudden gust of wind, let out another wail. Instinctively, Ethan reached down and lifted the basket, bringing it inside. As he set it down on the marble floor of the foyer, a piece of paper fluttered to the ground. With trembling hands, Ethan picked up the note. The handwriting was hurried, the ink smudged by what could have been raindrops or tears. "Please keep her safe. I have no one else to turn to. Her name is Lily." Ethan looked from the note to the baby, who had quieted now, her tiny fists curled against her cheeks. Her eyes, a startling shade of green, blinked up at him curiously. "Lily," he whispered, testing the name on his tongue. For a moment, Ethan stood frozen, his mind racing. He should call the police or child services or someone. This wasn't his problem to solve. He had board meetings to attend, deals to close, a company to run. He didn't have time for a baby. But as he reached for his phone, Lily let out a soft coo, her little arm stretching upwards as if reaching for him. Something stirred in Ethan's chest, a feeling he couldn't quite name. It reminded him of the excitement he felt in those early days with Mike, when anything seemed possible. With a sigh that was part exasperation and part resignation, Ethan carefully lifted Lily from the basket. She felt impossibly small in his arms, her warmth seeping through the soft blanket. "Well, Lily," he said softly, "I suppose you'll be staying here tonight." As if in response, Lily yawned widely, her eyes drifting closed as she snuggled against Ethan's chest. And in that moment, something shifted in Ethan Blackwood's world. The mansion that had always felt too big, too empty, suddenly seemed to shrink around them, becoming cozy, intimate. Ethan knew he should be panicking. He should be calling his lawyer, making arrangements, doing anything but standing in his foyer holding a stranger's child. But as he looked down at Lily's peaceful face, he felt a calmness wash over him that he hadn't experienced in years. "What am I going to do with you?" he murmured, gently rocking the sleeping infant. The rain continued to pour outside, but inside, in the warm circle of light cast by the foyer chandelier, Ethan Blackwood held a tiny miracle. And for the first time in years, the aching emptiness inside him began to fade. As he carried Lily up the grand staircase, Ethan's mind raced with 1,000 questions. Who had left her? Why him? What would happen next? But beneath the uncertainty, a tiny spark of hope had ignited. Maybe, just maybe, this unexpected delivery was exactly what he had been missing all along. Little did Ethan know, as he settled Lily into a hastily arranged makeshift crib in his own bedroom, that this night would mark the beginning of the most challenging, terrifying, and ultimately rewarding journey of his life. The journey of becoming a father, a journey that would force him to confront his past, reevaluate his present, and reimagine his future. The first rays of sunlight crept through the gaps in Ethan's curtains, painting golden streaks across the room. He blinked awake, disoriented for a moment by the unfamiliar weight on his chest. Looking down, he found Lily curled up there, her tiny fist clutching his shirt. Reality crashed over him like a wave. It hadn't been a dream. The baby was real, and she was here, in his home, in his care. "Oh God," Ethan muttered, carefully sitting up and cradling Lily to prevent her from falling. "What have I gotten myself into?" As if on cue, Lily's eyes fluttered open. For a brief moment, green eyes met brown in a silent exchange. Then, Lily's face scrunched up, and she let out a wail that seemed impossibly loud for such a small being. Ethan panicked. "Shh, shh," he tried, awkwardly patting her back. "It's okay. Everything's fine." But Lily only cried louder, her face turning an alarming shade of red. "Right," Ethan said, getting to his feet. "You're probably hungry, or need changing, or both. I can handle this. I run a multi-billion-dollar company. How hard can taking care of one tiny human be?" An hour later, Ethan stood in his kitchen, covered in baby formula, with a still crying Lily in his arms. His hair was disheveled, dark circles forming under his eyes. The kitchen looked like a war zone, empty formula cans scattered across the counter, a trail of powder leading to the sink where a bottle floated in a bowl of warm water. "Okay," Ethan admitted to the empty room. "This might be harder than I thought." Just then, his phone rang. Ethan glanced at the screen. It was his executive assistant ear, Samantha. "Hello," he answered, trying to sound composed while bouncing Lily in his arms. "Ethan, is everything all right?" Samantha's voice was tinged with concern. "You missed the 8 a.m. conference call with Tokyo. That's not like you." Ethan closed his eyes, suppressing a groan. He'd completely forgotten about work. "I'm dealing with an unexpected situation," he said, wincing as Lily let out another ear-piercing cry. "I'm going to need you to clear my schedule for the next few days." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Ethan, is that a baby crying?" "It's a long story, Sam. I promise I'll explain everything soon. Just handle things for me, will you?" After hanging up, Ethan looked down at Lily, who had finally quieted and was now sucking contentedly on the bottle he'd managed to prepare. "Well, little one, I suppose we need to figure out our next move." As the morning progressed, Ethan found himself in a whirlwind of activity he'd never experienced before. He made frantic online orders for baby supplies, watched countless YouTube videos on childcare, and even attempted to baby-proof his study. By noon, a parade of deliveries had transformed his austere mansion into something resembling a baby goods store. A crib now stood in the corner of his bedroom. A changing table had been hastily assembled in what used to be his home gym, and the kitchen was stocked with enough formula and baby food to feed a small army of infants. As Ethan sat on his leather sofa, Lily nestled in the crook of his arm. He couldn't help but marvel at how quickly his life had changed. Just 24 hours ago, his biggest concern had been the upcoming board meeting. Now he was Googling, How often do babies need to be fed with one hand while the other held a squirming infant? A knock at the door startled both of them. Lily whimpered, and Ethan instinctively held her closer as he went to answer it. On his doorstep stood Regina Hartley, his longtime lawyer and one of the few people Ethan considered a friend. Her usually impeccable appearance was marred by a frown of concern. "Ethan," she said, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of him holding Lily. "What on earth is going on?" "Samantha called me, said you were acting strange and that she heard a baby crying." Ethan stepped back, allowing Regina to enter. "It's complicated," he said, leading her to the living room. As they sat down, he recounted the events of the previous night. Regina listened in stunned silence, her gaze shifting between Ethan and Lily. When he finished, she took a deep breath. "Ethan, you do realize the legal ramifications of what you've done, don't you? You can't just keep a baby that was left on your doorstep." I know, Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "But what was I supposed to do? Leave her out in the rain? Call the police and have her put into the system?" "That's exactly what you should have done," Regina said, her tone softening as she saw the protective way Ethan held Lily. "But I understand why you didn't. The question is, what do you want to do now?" Ethan looked down at Lily, who had fallen asleep in his arms. Her tiny hand was wrapped around his finger, and he felt a surge of emotion he couldn't quite name. I want to keep her," he said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. Regina's eyebrows shot up. "Ethan, think about this. You're a single man with a demanding career. You have no experience with children. Taking care of a baby is a full-time job." "I know it sounds crazy," Ethan said, not taking his eyes off Lily. "But Regina, for the first time in years, I feel like I have a purpose beyond just making money and closing deals. I can't explain it, but I know this is right." Regina studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. If you're sure about this, we'll need to start the legal process immediately. We'll need to report finding Lily to the authorities, start adoption procedures, and prepare for the possibility that her biological parents might come forward." As Regina outlined the complex legal journey ahead, Ethan felt a mix of excitement and terror. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but looking at Lily's peaceful face, he felt a determination he hadn't experienced since the early days of founding his company. The next few days passed in a blur of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and legal meetings. Ethan's mansion, once a monument to his solitary success, was slowly transforming. The stark modern decor was softened by the presence of baby items. The silence that had once permeated the house was now filled with Lily's coos and cries. Ethan found himself changing in ways he never expected. His razor-sharp focus, once dedicated entirely to his business, now shifted to memorizing Lily's feeding schedule and perfecting the art of the swaddle. He discovered reserves of patience he never knew he had as he paced the floors at 3 a.m., humming off-key lullabies to soothe Lily back to sleep. One afternoon, about a week after Lily's arrival, Ethan sat in his home office, attempting to catch up on work while Lily napped. He was on a video call with his executive team when Lily's cry echoed through the baby monitor. "Excuse me for a moment," Ethan said, muting his microphone. He hurried to the nursery, scooping Lily into his arms. As he soothed her, he realized he'd left his camera on. His entire executive team had just witnessed Ethan Blackwood, tech mogul and notorious workaholic, tenderly caring for a baby. Returning to his desk with Lily in his arms, Ethan unmuted himself. "I apologize for the interruption," he said, bracing himself for the questions he knew were coming. To his surprise, the faces on his screen were smiling. "No need to apologize, Ethan," said his CFO, a woman who had worked with him for over a decade. "It's good to see this side of you." As the meeting continued, with Ethan bouncing Lily on his knee, he felt a shift in the dynamic with his team. The usual tense atmosphere of their meetings had softened. His executives seemed more at ease, even venturing to share personal anecdotes about their own children. That night, as Ethan put Lily to bed, he reflected on the changes of the past week. His world, Mauard, which had once revolved solely around his work career, was expanding. He was connecting with his employees on a more personal level. He was rediscovering parts of himself he thought he'd lost long ago. As he leaned down to kiss Lily's forehead, he whispered, "Thank you, little one. I think you might be saving me as much as I'm saving you." Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Regina. DNA results are in. You might want to sit down for this. Ethan's heart raced as he read the message. He looked at Lily, peacefully sleeping in her crib, blissfully unaware of the storm that might be brewing. Whatever the results held, Ethan knew one thing for certain. His life had changed irrevocably, and he would do whatever it took to protect the little girl who had so unexpectedly stolen his heart. As he sat in his study, finger hovering over Regina's number, Ethan took a deep breath. The DNA results could change everything. They could provide answers about Lily's background, potentially lead to her biological parents. And they answered, but regardless of what the test revealed, Ethan knew he was prepared to fight for Lily with everything he had. He pressed the call button, his mind racing with possibilities. As the phone rang, he glanced at the baby monitor, watching Lily's chest rise and fall with each peaceful breath. In just a week, this tiny human had completely upended his life, challenging everything he thought he knew about himself and his priorities. Hello, Ethan, Regina's voice came through the speaker. Are you ready for this? Ethan took another deep breath, his gaze still fixed on the sleeping Lily. As ready as I'll ever be, he replied. Tell me everything. As Regina began to speak, Ethan listened intently, knowing that whatever came next would be just another step in the unexpected journey that had begun on that rainy night. A journey that was reshaping his definition of success, family, and love with each passing day. Ethan's fingers tightened around his phone as Regina's words sank in. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the familiar contours of his study blurring at the edges. I'm sorry, Regina, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Could you repeat that? He heard Regina take a deep breath on the other end of the line. The DNA results, Ethan, they show a familial match. Ethan's mind raced. A familial match, but how? He had no siblings, no living relatives that he knew of. Unless, it's a paternal match, Ethan, Regina continued, her voice gentle but firm. According to these results, you are Lily's biological father. The room spun. Ethan gripped the edge of his desk, struggling to process this information. That's impossible, he stammered. I haven't been in a relationship in years. There's no way I could be. I know this is a shock, Regina interrupted. But the science is clear. The DNA doesn't lie, Ethan. Lily is your daughter. Ethan's gaze darted to the baby monitor, where Lily still slept peacefully, unaware of the bombshell that had just been dropped. His daughter. The words echoed in his mind, foreign yet strangely right. How? He asked, more to himself than to Regina. I don't understand how this could have happened. I think, Regina said carefully, that's a question only you can answer, Ethan. Is there any possibility, any at all, that you could have fathered a child without knowing it? Ethan's mind raced back through the years. His workaholic lifestyle hadn't left much room for relationships, but there had been a few encounters, one-night stands, brief flings that never amounted to anything. He'd always been careful, but could there have been a mistake? And then, like a bolt of lightning, a memory struck him. A charity gala nearly 2 years ago. He'd had too much to drink, feeling lonely and out of place among the crowd of socialites and business tycoons. There had been a woman, kind eyes, a gentle smile. They'd talked for hours, finding solace in each other's company. One thing had led to another, and they'd spent the night together. In the morning, she was gone, leaving nothing but a lingering scent of jasmine and a hastily scribbled note thanking him for a lovely evening. Oh my God, Ethan breathed. I think I know who Lily's mother might be. Over the next hour, Ethan recounted the story to Regina, his mind reeling with the implications. The timing fit. The woman, Sarah, he remembered now, could very well be Lily's mother. We need to find her, Ethan said, a new determination in his voice. If Sarah is Lily's mother, we need to understand why she left Lily with me. Why she didn't tell me about the pregnancy. Slow down, Ethan, Regina cautioned. This changes things legally. Now that we know you're Lily's biological father, the adoption process will be simpler. But if we start searching for Sarah, we open up a whole new can of worms. Are you sure you want to do this? Ethan paused, looking at Lily's sleeping form on the monitor. In the weeks since she'd come into his life, he'd grown to love her more than he ever thought possible. The idea of potentially sharing her, or worse, losing her, made his chest tighten with fear. But he knew he couldn't live with himself if he didn't at least try to understand the full story. "I'm sure," he said finally. "Lily deserves to know where she came from, and I need to know too." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Ethan hired a private investigator to track down Sarah, all while juggling his newfound fatherhood and his responsibilities at Nexus Technologies. He found himself living in a state of constant anticipation, jumping every time his phone rang, hoping for news. Despite the turmoil, Ethan's bond with Lily grew stronger each day. He marveled at her tiny features, searching for hints of himself in her face. Did she have his nose, his stubborn chin? Every new discovery filled him with a mixture of awe and terror. One sunny afternoon, as Ethan sat in the backyard with Lily, watching her giggle at the butterflies flitting through his meticulously maintained garden, his phone buzzed. It was the private investigator. "Mr. Blackwood," the gruff voice said. "We've found her." Ethan's heart leaped into his throat. "Where is she? Is she okay?" "She's in Boston, sir. Working as a nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, but there's something you should know." The hesitation in the investigator's voice sent a chill down Ethan's spine. "Now what is it?" "She's sick, Mr. Blackwood. Terminal cancer. The doctors have given her less than a year." The world seemed to stop. Ethan looked at Lily, happily babbling to herself, blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding around her. His chest ached with a complex mixture of emotions: relief at having found Sarah, grief for her condition, fear for what this meant for Lily's future. Thank you," he managed to say. "Send me all the information you have." After hanging up, Ethan sat in stunned silence, absently stroking Lily's soft hair. The situation was more complicated than he could have ever imagined. Sarah was dying. She had left Lily with him, knowing she couldn't care for her. But why hadn't she told him the truth? With trembling fingers, Ethan dialed Regina's number. As he explained the situation, he could hear the sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. "Ethan," Regina said slowly, "you need to tread very carefully here. Legally, as Lily's biological father, you have rights, but morally, this is a minefield. What do you want to do?" Ethan looked at Lily, who was now dozing in the warm afternoon sun. He thought about Sarah, alone and sick, having made the heartbreaking decision to give up her daughter. He thought about the past 2 years, the life Sarah had lived carrying this secret, facing her mortality without her child. "I want to meet her," he said finally. "I want to understand. And I want Lily to have a chance to know her mother, even if it's only for a short time." The next day found Ethan standing outside Sarah's apartment, Lily securely strapped to his chest in a baby carrier. His palms were sweaty, his heart racing. What would he say to her? How would she react to seeing him, to seeing Lily? Taking a deep breath, he raised his hand and knocked on the door. Moments passed, feeling like an eternity. Then slowly the door opened. Sarah stood there, a shadow of the vibrant woman he remembered from the gala. She was thin, her skin pale, but her eyes, those kind eyes he remembered, lit up as they fell on Lily. "Oh," she breathed, a trembling hand covering her mouth. "Oh, you found me." "Hello, Sarah," Ethan said softly. I think we have a lot to talk about." Sarah nodded, stepping back to let them in. As Ethan crossed the threshold, he felt as though he was stepping into a new chapter of his life. One filled with uncertainty, but also with the potential for healing and connection. Over the next few hours, Sarah and Ethan talked, their conversation punctuated by Lily's occasional coos and gurgles. Sarah explained how she had discovered her pregnancy shortly after their night together, only to receive her cancer diagnosis a few months later. "I was terrified," she admitted, tears glistening in her eyes. "I didn't know how to reach you, didn't know if you'd even remember me. And then, as the pregnancy progressed and my condition worsened, I realized I couldn't care for a baby. I couldn't saddle an innocent child with a dying mother." Ethan listened, his heart breaking for the impossible choice Sarah had faced. "But why didn't you tell me?" he asked gently. "I would have helped, would have been there for both of you." Sarah smiled sadly. "I know that now, but then, you were Ethan Blackwood, the tech mogul. I was just a nurse who had a one-night stand with you." I convinced myself it was better this way, that Lily would have a chance at a better life if I let her go. As the afternoon wore on, Ethan found himself telling Sarah about the past few weeks, his initial shock at finding Lily, his clumsy attempts at caring for her, and the profound love that had blossomed between them. "You're a natural," Sarah said, watching as Ethan gently rocked a fussy Lily. "She's lucky to have you." Ethan looked up, meeting Sarah's gaze. "She's lucky to have both of us," he said firmly. "Sarah, I know this situation is complicated, but I want you to be a part of Lily's life. For as long as we have." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "You'd do that? Even after everything?" "Of course," Ethan said, surprised to find tears in his own eyes. "You're her mother, and I think we could all use a little more family in our lives." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of changes. With Regina's help, Ethan and Sarah worked out a co-parenting arrangement that allowed Sarah to spend time with Lily while respecting her need for rest and medical care. Ethan hired the best oncologist in the country, determined to give Sarah every possible chance at extending her time with Lily. As summer turned to fall, Ethan's mansion once again transformed. The guest room closest to Lily's nursery was converted into a comfortable space for Sarah, filled with medical equipment but also with warmth and life. Photos of Sarah with Lily began to appear alongside Ethan's, creating a visual narrative of their unconventional family. One crisp October evening, as Ethan and Sarah sat on the patio watching Lily toddle through piles of fallen leaves, Sarah turned to him with a serious expression. "Ethan," she said softly, "I need to ask you something important." Ethan felt a flutter of anxiety in his chest. "Of course, anything." Sarah took a deep breath. "When I'm gone, will you tell Lily about me? Will you make sure she knows how much I loved her, even though I couldn't be there for her in the beginning?" Ethan reached out, taking Sarah's frail hand in his. "Sarah," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "Lily will know everything about you. Your courage, your kindness, your love. I promise you she will grow up knowing how lucky she is to have you as her mother." Sarah squeezed his hand, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. As they sat there, watching the sun set on another day, Ethan marveled at the journey that had brought them to this point. A year ago, he had been a lonely workaholic, driven by ambition but empty inside. Now he was a father, co-parenting with a woman he was growing to deeply care for, facing an uncertain future but filled with more love and purpose than he had ever known. Lily's delighted squeal as she discovered a particularly crunchy leaf broke the moment. Both Ethan and Sarah laughed, their eyes meeting in a look of shared joy and bittersweetness. "You know," Ethan said, helping Lily climb into his lap, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm grateful for that charity gala. For the series of events that led us here. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it," Sarah finished for him, reaching out to smooth Lily's unruly hair. Ethan nodded, holding Lily close and reaching for Sarah's hand. As the three of them sat there, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, Ethan realized that he had found something he never even knew he was looking for: a family. Unconventional, unexpected, and facing challenges he couldn't have imagined, but a family nonetheless. And as Lily snuggled against his chest, her tiny hand reaching out to grasp Sarah's finger, Ethan made a silent vow: no matter what the future held, no matter how much time they had left, he would cherish every moment. He would build a life filled with love, memories, and the unbreakable bonds of family, a legacy that would live on through Lily long after they were gone. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with joy and heartbreak in equal measure. But looking at Lily and Sarah, Ethan knew one thing for certain: he was exactly where he was meant to be. And for the first time in his life, that was enough. As winter descended upon Boston, blanketing Ethan's estate in a soft layer of snow, life inside the mansion settled into a new rhythm. The once empty halls now echoed with Lily's laughter, Sarah's gentle humming, and the constant bustle of medical staff coming and going. Ethan found himself navigating a delicate balance between his responsibilities as a father, his growing role as Sarah's caretaker, and his duties as CEO of Nexus Technologies. He had always prided himself on his ability to juggle multiple priorities, but this was a challenge unlike any he had faced before. One frosty morning, as Ethan sat at his desk reviewing quarterly reports, He heard a soft knock at his study door. Looking up, he saw Sarah standing there, Lily balanced on her hip. "Sorry to interrupt," Sarah said, her voice weaker than it had been even a week ago. But someone wanted to say good morning to her daddy." Ethan's face broke into a wide smile as he stood to greet them. "Well, good morning to my two favorite ladies," he said, taking Lily into his arms and planting a kiss on her chubby cheek. He then turned to Sarah, his smile fading slightly as he noticed the dark circles under her eyes. "How are you feeling today?" Sarah shrugged, attempting a brave smile. "I've had better days, but I've had worse too. The new treatment Dr. Chen suggested seems to be helping a bit." Ethan nodded, trying to hide his concern. Sarah's good days were becoming fewer and farther between, a fact that weighed heavily on his heart. "Why don't you rest for a bit?" he suggested. "I can watch Lily for a while." "Actually," Sarah said, her eyes brightening slightly, "I was wondering if you might be up for a little family outing. The nurse said a bit of fresh air might do me good, and it's such a beautiful day." Ethan glanced at his computer screen, at the mountain of work waiting for him. Then he looked back at Sarah and Lily, at the hopeful expressions on their faces. In that moment, the decision was easy. "You know what? That sounds perfect," he said, already reaching for his coat. "I know just the place." An hour later, the unlikely family found themselves at the Boston Public Garden. Ethan pushed Sarah's wheelchair along the snow-dusted paths, while Lily toddled alongside, marveling at the winter wonderland around her. As they reached the frozen lagoon where the swan boats usually operated in summer, Ethan paused, taking in the peaceful scene. Sarah's gaze was fixed on Lily, who was attempting to catch snowflakes on her tongue. "I never thought I'd have this," Sarah said softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "When I left Lily with you, I thought I was giving up any chance of being a mother. But you've given me so much more than I could have ever hoped for." Ethan knelt beside Sarah's wheelchair, taking her cold hand in his. "Sarah, you've given us so much too. You've taught me what it really means to be a parent, to put someone else's needs before your own." "Lily and we're the lucky ones." Sarah squeezed his hand, a sad smile playing on her lips. "Promise me something, Ethan. Promise me you'll keep living after I'm gone, that you'll show Lily all the beauty this world has to offer." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. "Sarah, promise me," she insisted, her gaze intense despite her frail state. Ethan nodded, blinking back tears. "I promise." Their moment was interrupted by Lily's excited squeal. They looked up to see her pointing at a group of ducks waddling across the ice. "Look, Mommy, look, Daddy." "Ducks." Ethan and Sarah exchanged a glance, both their hearts swelling at Lily's words. It was the first time she had called them that, Mommy and Daddy, and the significance of the moment wasn't lost on either of them. As they spent the rest of the afternoon in the park, building tiny snowmen and feeding the ducks, Ethan felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. This was what mattered, he realized. Not the business deals or the technological innovations, but these precious moments with the family he never knew he wanted. The weeks that followed were a mixture of joy and heartache. Sarah's condition continued to deteriorate, but she faced each day with a courage that left Ethan in awe. They made the most of every moment, creating a lifetime of memories in the short time they had left. Ethan found himself reevaluating his priorities. He delegated more responsibilities at work, determined to be present for every precious moment with Sarah and Lily. He organized video calls with Sarah's family, ensuring that Lily would have connections to that side of her heritage. They recorded messages for Lily's future, filled photo albums, and wrote letters to be opened on important milestones in her life. As spring began to bloom, Sarah's strength began to fade. On a warm April evening, as the three of them sat on the patio watching the sunset, Sarah turned to Ethan, her eyes filled with a mix of love and resignation. "It's time," she said simply. Ethan nodded, understanding immediately. He had dreaded this moment, but he knew Sarah had fought long and hard. What do you need?" he asked, and his voice thick with emotion. Sarah smiled, reaching out to stroke Lily's hair as the toddler dozed in Ethan's lap. "Just this," she said. "Just a little more time with my family." They spent the night under the stars, sharing stories, laughter, and tears. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Sarah took her last breath, surrounded by the love she had fought so hard to experience. In the days that followed, Ethan moved through a fog of grief, held together only by his responsibilities to Lily. He was surprised to find support coming from unexpected places. His employees rallied around him. His board of directors insisted he take all the time he needed. And even his old friend Mike reached out, offering condolences and a tentative olive branch. As Ethan stood at Sarah's graveside, Lily clutching his hand, he reflected on the whirlwind journey of the past year. He had gained a daughter, found and lost a partner, and discovered a capacity for love he never knew he possessed. Looking down at Lily, who was solemnly placing a flower on her mother's grave, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. Sarah had given them both an incredible gift, the gift of family, of love, of a future filled with possibilities. "Come on, sweetheart," he said gently, picking Lily up. "Let's go home." As they walked away from the cemetery, Ethan knew that while one chapter had closed, another was just beginning. He had promised Sarah he would keep living, that he would show Lily all the beauty the world had to offer. And as Lily snuggled against his shoulder, her little arms wrapped tightly around his neck, Ethan made a silent vow to honor that promise every day for the rest of his life. The road ahead would not be easy, but with Lily by his side and Sarah's memory in his heart, Ethan knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would build a life filled with love, laughter, and the enduring bonds of family. A legacy that would honor Sarah's memory and shape Lily's future in ways they had yet to imagine. 5 years had passed since that fateful night when a baby in a basket changed Ethan Blackwood's life forever. The sprawling mansion that had once echoed with emptiness now buzzed with the energy of a happy home. On a sunny Saturday morning, Ethan stood in the kitchen, flipping pancakes while 6-year-old Lily sat at the counter, her legs swinging as she chattered excitedly about her upcoming first-grade art show. "And Miss Thompson says my painting might even win a prize, Daddy," Lily exclaimed, her green eyes so like Sarah's, sparkling with enthusiasm. Ethan smiled, sliding a pancake onto Lily's plate. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I can't wait to see it." As he watched Lily dig into her breakfast, Ethan marveled at how much she'd grown. Her dark curls, so like his own, bounced as she moved, and her face was a perfect blend of his features and Sarah's. She was a living reminder of the unexpected journey that had brought them here. The past 5 years hadn't been easy. Adjusting to life as a single father while running a major tech company had been a constant balancing act. There had been sleepless nights, board meetings attended via video call with a toddler on his lap, and moments of doubt when he wondered if he was doing right by Lily. But there had also been joy, so much joy. First steps, first words, first days of school. Each milestone was a celebration, bittersweet with the knowledge that Sarah wasn't there to share it, but precious all the same. Ethan had kept his promise to Sarah. Lily's life was filled with love, laughter, and adventures. They had traveled the world together, from the beaches of Hawaii to the streets of London. Ethan had made it his mission to show Lily all the beauty the world had to offer, just as he had promised Sarah he would. "Daddy," Lily's voice broke through his reverie. "Can we visit Mommy today?" Ethan's heart swelled. They visited Sarah's grave regularly, and Ethan had made sure Lily knew all about her mother, her kindness, her bravery, and the sacrifices she had made. "Of course we can, sweet pea," Ethan replied, ruffling Lily's hair. "I will bring her some of those sunflowers she loved so much." Later that day, as they stood hand in hand by Sarah's grave, Ethan listened as Lily chattered away, telling her mother all about her week at school and her upcoming art show. "And Daddy's been helping me practice my reading every night. Mommy. He does all the funny voices for different characters, just like you used to do." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. He squeezed Lily's hand gently, overwhelmed by the rush of love and gratitude he felt for this little girl who had changed his life in so many ways. As they walked back to the car, Lily skipping ahead, Ethan's phone buzzed with a message. It was from Mike, his old friend and former business partner. "Hey Ethan, we still on for the park tomorrow? Jake's excited for a playdate with Lily." Ethan smiled as he typed a quick affirmative reply. Reconnecting with Mike had been one of the unexpected silver linings of the past few years. After reaching out following Sarah's passing, they had slowly rebuilt their friendship. Mike, now a father himself, had become a valuable source of support and advice. The next day, as Ethan watched Lily and Jake chase each other around the playground, he and Mike sat on a nearby bench, Catching up. So, how's the new project coming along? Mike asked, referring to Ethan's latest venture, a non-profit focused on supporting single parents and children in need. Ethan's eyes lit up. It's going well. We've just partnered with 3 more hospitals to provide support for parents facing terminal illnesses. And the scholarship program for children of single parents is set to launch next month. Mike nodded approvingly. You've really found your calling with this, haven't you? It's a far cry from the cutthroat world of tech startups. Ethan chuckled, his gaze drifting to Lily, who was now showing Jake how to do a cartwheel. Life has a funny way of showing you what really matters, he said softly. As the afternoon wore on, Ethan found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him to this point. He thought about the man he had been 6 years ago, driven, successful, but ultimately unfulfilled. He thought about the night he found Lily, the whirlwind of emotions that followed, and the profound love that had blossomed in his heart. He thought about Sarah, gone too soon but never forgotten. Her courage, her sacrifice, and her love had shaped both him and Lily in ways he was still discovering. And he thought about Lily, his unexpected gift and his reason for everything. She had taught him more about love, patience, and the true meaning of success than any business deal ever could. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Ethan called out to Lily. Time to go home, sweetheart. Lily ran over, her cheeks flushed with exertion and happiness. Can we have pizza for dinner, Daddy? Please, Ethan laughed, scooping her up into his arms. I think we can manage that. As they walked to the car, Lily's small hand in his, Ethan felt a profound sense of contentment wash over him. His life may not have turned out the way he had planned, but it had become richer and more meaningful than he ever could have imagined. That night, after tucking Lily into bed and reading her favorite story, Ethan retreated to his study. On his desk sat a framed photo of Sarah, her kind eyes smiling out at him. Next to it was a recent picture of him and Lily, both grinning widely as they built a sandcastle on a beach in Maui. Ethan picked up the photo of Sarah, tracing her face with his finger. We're doing okay, Sarah, he whispered. She's happy, she's healthy, and she's so loved. I hope we're making you proud. As he set the photo down, his gaze fell on a small, wrapped package on his desk. It was Lily's gift for him, a handmade Father's Day card that she had been working on in secret all week, which she had proudly presented to him that morning. With careful fingers, Ethan opened the card. On the front was a crayon drawing of him and Lily, stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. Inside, in Lily's wobbly handwriting, were words that made his heart swell. To the best daddy in the whole wide world. I love you to the moon and back, and then to all the stars too. Love to Lily, and below in smaller letters on primary S. Mommy would be proud of us, don't you think? Ethan felt tears prick his eyes as he read the words again and again. In that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that every challenge, every sleepless night, every difficult decision had been worth it. His life had become a tapestry woven with threads of unexpected love, of loss and renewal, of challenges overcome and joys discovered. And at the center of it all was Lily, his daughter, his miracle, his guiding star. As Ethan closed the card and placed it carefully on his desk, he made a silent vow. He would continue to honor Sarah's memory, to cherish every moment with Lily, and to use his resources to help other families facing similar challenges. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities. There would be more challenges to face, more milestones to celebrate, more memories to create. But whatever came their way, Ethan knew that he and Lily would face it together, bound by the unbreakable ties of family and the enduring power of love. As he turned off the light in his study and headed to bed, Ethan felt a sense of peace settle over him. He had found his true purpose, his real success, and it had all started with a baby in a basket on a rainy night, an unexpected delivery that had turned out to be the greatest gift of all.